I am being joined now in front of their game.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
This is not
Wow.
quite right. I'm not Nikita. My name's Chris. Yeah, see, I'm sitting on the.
I mean, I just got like way more handsome all of a sudden, so that's
Aw,
cool.
Flattery will get you everywhere, except you're already kind of here. So. There we go. Okay, so yeah.
It's cold over in this corner.
It is. It is. It's insane because it's like 104 degrees outside.
I know.
This is a very big building. We have like 150 machines here or something absurd like that. And with all the people that get in here and all the temperature outside and all the machines, like the AC has to be
I bet.
absurd. So if you get in certain places, especially when there's not 300 people in here,
Right.
yeah, it'll get quite brisk.
It is.
And
it's chilly. I mean, it's downright chilly.
we've had some Spring Series tournaments where we have the best of the best have qualified for the top 8, and here's the world champion of Street Fighter 2, and it's shivering cold.
Yeah.
It's 95 degrees outside, and we're literally shivering, and it's hard to do it. But it's the 40th anniversary of Joust, and I'm being joined by the creators of Killer Queen. Good Lord, I don't even know what to say. I looked at it the first time and I saw it's behind us, a 5 versus 5 team arcade, very clearly inspired by Joust game. I guess, how did you come up with it? I've asked this question.
First, I'm curious, where was the first time you saw it?
Where was the first time I saw it?
Yeah. Do you remember?
I want to say it was, I think it was Pinballs in.
Oh, in Austin, Texas.
Yes, I went there for Classic Game Fest. Yes.
Okay.
And I went to Pinballs because I wanted to play pinball machines that I hadn't seen here at Free Play. And because, they're different everywhere. And, yeah, there was Killer Queen there, and they called me over. But to be honest with you, I had been exposed to it before.
Yeah.
Not played it, but I was aware of its existence.
Right.
And how much it seemed like an amazing, like, perfect idea. Like, it was always clear to me that, like, you guys are onto something.
Yeah.
Just at the concept level.
So okay, yeah, Chris asked how did we make it? And I think given the context, maybe let's focus on how, why we made the mechanics so similar to Joust.
Yeah, I guess we should gloss over a bit. Like, you guys came up with it with the concept of Killer Queen for a game.
Field
game.
It
was for a field game. So,
right.
like, basically, imagine Quidditch without magic, right? So there's, like, people running around in a field with swords, and, like, the balls were, like, kind of
foam swords.
Foam swords, yeah, and then, like, the food were like these little plastic balls that you get for like $100 for $10 or whatever.
Yeah, and basically the strategic elements of the game are the same as the video game, but instead of flying,
but they weren't always.
Around.
There originally there wasn't the snail, but it was very similar. Yeah, it was very similar.
And so we decided to make a video game version of that, and
because it would be easier to transport.
Right. Yeah. But we didn't realize it would be an arcade.
1,000-pound behemoth.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have your game, and then you decide to translate it into video game form,
right.
And that's when the Joust influences start coming in.
Yeah, I think so. We said, as we started, we knew we wanted it to be a platformer.
Mm-hmm.
Well, did we know that? I'm trying to think. I mean, I think we're brainstorming, like, okay.
Because you're moving around a field, so you have to translate that.
Yeah. And so, yeah, like, part of the fun of the field game is just literally running around, right? Like, it's just fun. In a video game, you don't have that visceral feeling of running around. And so we said, like, what is something that feels fun that you can only do in a video game?
And it's flying.
Which is really interesting. Talking with John Newcomer last night, he's like, that was his exact way that he came up with Joust in the first place, and he he said, okay, well, it's flying. Let me like figure out how to put that into a video game. I think we had already had the precedent set for us by John. Thanks, John. And so we just said, okay, well, let's just borrow that from Joust, you know. And
right.
It was a very deliberate inspiration.
And honestly, like growing up, I remember when Joust came out. I remember when it came to the deli down the street or whatever, and it was so different than like everything that preceded it, and it really made a mark on me, honestly. Like that flight pattern just has like a certain characteristic that like there's something magical about it, you know?
Yeah. No, he was just talking about how much he had to go into like making sure that the sound was right, and that to the point that's all he cared about was, I'm inspired to make it a flying game, and it needs to sound just right.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, there's lots of games where you fly, but Joust is really visceral, right? Because there's a one-to-one correspondence between the tapping and your flight pattern, right? And like it's not like, oh, I press a button and then like I go up. It's like if I want to go up, I have to like keep pressing, and then I have to maintain my height, and like there's like it just feels like you're actually doing something.
It's gratifying to flap those wings.
Yeah.
And there is a skill element to the flying and a strategy element to the flying, which were both things that we wanted.
Right.
As opposed to just, if you like holding a joystick in a direction and move that direction, like that didn't quite have the depth that we wanted, right? We wanted a game that was like very easy to pick up, but a lot of room for growth, both in the skill and the strategy.
I mean, I guess the road not taken would have been for us to do like a top-down, almost like FIFA-style interpretation of the field game. But
the seven different variants of Killer Queen field game.
Yeah.
Or now it's Killer Queen in space in some way, or just with radically different mechanics.
Right.
But you got inspired by Joust. Did y'all play a lot of Joust back in the day?
Back in the day, but not when we made it.
Yeah.
My first exposure to Joust was on the Atari 2600, and I played it a lot on there, and I loved it. And then after that, I played it in the arcade, and I also loved the arcade game. We both. I think it was.
I didn't even own it on the Atari.
No, but it's good. It's a really good port.
Yeah, it is a good port.
Yeah.
All things considered, of course, the graphics aren't the same, but they got the flight to feel
they did.
right. Like
and
that's
the
the important
bad.
part. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's and it's way better than that Pac-Man port.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
No, I've definitely played it. Definitely had it at home. Definitely tormented my little brother with it.
Yeah.
There's a homebrew Pac-Man for Atari. For the 2600. That's kind of amazing, actually.
Yeah, the Ms. Pac-Man, not so bad. Yeah. Pac-Man 1.
But
we don't talk about Pac-Man 1.
No.
The thing that I think is interesting in retrospect is we didn't really play Joust when we were developing Killer Queen.
Right.
And we designed the flight based off of our memory of Joust. We didn't even look at YouTube videos of it or anything, as far as I can remember.
No, and I think that was important.
Yeah.
I think that was somehow important for us to kind of, one, create flight that made sense for our game, because I don't think that it's kind of like when I play Joust, it's almost like Spanish and Italian. Like if I play this game long enough and I go play Killer Queen, it's like it throws me off. It
is disorienting. I guess
like Joust is much more horizontal and Killer Queen is much more vertical.
Well, one thing that's fundamentally awkward for me, like when I played Joust, because I am a weird cross section of human being. I've won a major cash tournament on Joust, and I've won a major cash tournament on Killer Queen. And then when I was practicing Killer Queen the first time, when you play Joust, your hitbox is bigger on the backside.
Right, it's backwards.
It's totally backwards. Yeah. It's a valid strategy, and even a good one. You can see how Tracy's playing it right now. Like she's facing the back
Yeah.
of her opponent because that's where the hitbox is biggest.
Yeah.
And then I can't tell you how many times I've flown into somebody in Killer Queen in the early goings and just turned around and exposed my back and
Right.
got killed.
Totally.
Oh yeah, not Joust. Similar, but not quite.
Yeah, I
The
mean,
other-
whereas if we had studied Joust, like if we had done a deep dive and studied Joust,
Yeah, but you weren't doing Joust. Yeah. No,
right? But like
totally.
we didn't want it to be exactly Joust.
Yeah,
you know.
and you succeeded. It's very like I can clearly see the loving inspiration from Joust.
Yeah.
But once I play it, like I said, it's enough to drive Lonnie insane. He's not over there playing with the kiddos
Yeah.
on Killer Queen. He's staring at Tracy play Joust.
Right. The other thing that I think is very different is I've never been like a top tier player in Joust, but I've been watching Tracy and Lonnie and you play today and yesterday, and it seems like there's definitely an advantage to being low, right?
Low,
like you
yeah,
want to
yeah.
be on the bottom platform. And in Killer Queen, it's the exact opposite. You want to be
Yeah.
at the top.
Well,
You always want to be up high. Yeah.
if you look behind us, yeah, we're on. We got.
Actually, you can see it in,
yeah.
in Tracy's view better. Probably.
Okay, yeah, you can see
Yeah.
it behind Tracy's shoulder. That's Dusk Map. Sorry, yes, it is Dusk Map.
Yeah.
Not Dusk. Yes. Yeah, there's a ledge down at the bottom that players like I just see Shipwash doing this like intentionally, and just he's a good Killer Queen player, an incredible queen, and he will dive under that low ledge, and I don't have a word for it, but we have a with the flower there and the berries, and he'll just bury himself there, and
Yeah.
you can't root him out.
Yeah.
And that's kind of as Tracy's doing right here.
Right.
Just bury yourself under the ledge, and the buzzards are the vanilla warriors who just cannot break into your hive.
Right.
Yeah, so that's Joust, at least on the cutthroat side, in a nutshell.
Yeah.
And not, I mentioned it with him briefly. Like he planned for it to be competitive and cooperative, but they weren't even playing it that way in practice. They were playing it single player, so they weren't actually like fleshing out the meta. I still feel like there's actually room for the meta to grow, even within Joust Cutthroat. If you told me I had to stop playing Killer Queen, I'd be sad. But then I had to become a professional Joust player.
Right.
I would be committing my Killer Queen knowledge to like worrying about the trajectory of the pterodactyl and how I could use that pterodactyl to pincer somebody out of the their little hiding place there. But yeah, that's pretty much what we'll see later on in the Cutthroat competition. I only have a few more minutes with you before I have to turn it over to John. I'm a huge fan. I played Joust competitively. I won money on that. I've won money on plenty of games. I've never played a bar game. I've never played an arcade game quite like Killer Queen. Like the way it brings people together. It's a 5-on-5 team game. You start with Joust. You start with Mario Brothers. And then the way you guys put it together and force people together in a way is so beautiful and so helpful to me and my passions of bringing people together to play arcade games. It is literally the best bar game I've ever played. I can't see it being beaten.
Wow, thank you, Chris.
I just can't. Like this is akin to probably Joust creating simultaneous multiplayer, and then Street Fighter 2 and influencing us to play head to head. It's just one of those step forwards. I'm sad that like arcades were at such a point to where like it's there's some people who haven't heard of Killer Queen even now because arcades are only coming back, not coincidentally, with Killer Queen, helping us to show people that like new games can be both old and new. It's amazing.
I mean, as far as look, COVID was definitely not great for arcades, right? But I do think that we're still on this trajectory where, like, we're kind of where microbreweries were 15 years ago, where, like, there's about 200 or 300 kind of arcades like this that focus on actual gameplay and not like, oh, look, let me take a selfie in front of an old-timey thing or a Dave & Buster's kind of a thing,
Right.
And but I think that, like, moving forward, I'm hoping to see, like, more and more of establishments like this one where it's about playing games, it's about building community, it's about like all these things that we love about games, and like, if you're if you're an old Greek, you remember that like you had this community around playing backgammon at the Cafenillo, right? And there'd be like 50 old guys and like, and they're all just going at it, playing backgammon, and like they love each other and they love playing with each other. And it's like, it's similar. It's not that much different. We're humans. We like to play together,
Yeah, something happened for me with the COVID break or however you want to refer to it. I play all the games, and I have played all the games, and it's absurd. But once I came back, I couldn't go back to the single player games. I just can't. I can, if you want me to show you how to play X-Men over there and get close to 1 crediting it, I can and I will because you're there. But I can't play it by myself anymore because something took everybody in the world away from me.
Right.
And Killer Queen pushes us together as a game design, and it's made me so happy to like be able to see people, meet people, meet thy neighbor.
Yeah, us too, man.
Yeah.
That's the most rewarding thing about it for us, like seeing it bring people together and all the people we've met through it.
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
Like we go and play, at our leagues in New York, and it's like it's really important to us. And I really miss like the Friday night thing. We used to have every Friday night at the NYU Game Center we would play, and NYU is still not allowing guests because of COVID, and like that, I hate that.
But on the other hand, it's opened up this opportunity at Wonderville, right? So like now we're hanging out Tuesday nights at Wonderville, and it's like it's a whole new crowd, and like I've gotten to meet all these cool kids that like I would have never had the opportunity to meet, and I mean, they think that it's cool that they're meeting me, and I'm like, no, it's actually cool that I'm meeting you guys,
Yeah, it's the joy of the arcade is actually meeting the players and making new friends and playing games with them. That's what this is all about. Your game encapsulates that better than anybody. I got a question from somebody before you guys came to town, and as it relates to Killer Queen and Joust, which is Meet Thy Neighbors. Is that meant to be a Joust reference?
Yeah, that's totally a Joust reference.
Okay. There you go.
I think there's one other too, right? In the attract. So there's something else. I mean, there's others we toyed with.
It's in the white screen. It's
right.
Thy family or something.
Yeah, it says Meet Thy Family.
Meet Thy Family.
And then, but I think there's even one of those other messages in that white tutorial screen that goes in the attract loop. That's a nod to Joust. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you think about any other games in relation as inspiration for Killer Queen?
I mean, we talked about the Mario jump a lot, and
when you were working on it, was it which because he's gotten quite a bit evolved from his Jumpman days on jumping. Like what was your Mario jump of preference?
I think probably Super Mario 1.
Yeah, Super Mario 1.
But it's not literally that same jump.
It's not. But
I think it.
And I had you read Steve Swink's book too.
Yeah, Steve Swink outlines the jump.
Yeah,
exactly.
Like there's a chapter. There's a book called Game Feel, which if you're a budding game designer, I highly recommend you read it. And he talks a lot about the Mario jump, and I feel like it's the best chapter in the book.
I think that it is basically the Mario algorithm for the jump, but with different parameters for like how long different aspects are and how much things influence it. And it's interesting because that the jump it's really tuned for the type of gameplay in a 10-player competitive game like this, and for whatever Killer Queen is. And when we made Zombies, the Killer Queen remix, that is like a single-player version of it, and it was really interesting.
Which is both why I did and did not play a lot of Zombies.
right. But the jump in there, it feels weird out of context. It's not the type of jump you would normally choose for a single-player game.
It's true.
But because we used the exact code from Killer Queen, it's like it creates something unique that wouldn't have existed otherwise. Like I don't think we ever would have designed that jump.
I mean, what's great about what's really interesting about that algorithm is that like you can tweak it. Like it's like if you play Super Meat Boy, right? It's basically the same algorithm but with different parameters, right? If you play Limbo, it's the same algorithm but with different parameters. And like it's so versatile. And like you look at an older game like Castlevania or like Donkey Kong, and
where you can't alter your jump mid-flight.
Yeah, it's like so rigid, and like it doesn't. Yeah, I mean, I think the world can thank Miyamoto a billion times for that jump.
Is it? I'm trying to. Yeah, I don't think you can do it in Mario 1. So it is Super Mario 1 that premieres that style of jump.
Yeah.
And you're saying you can't do it in Super Mario in
Mario.
No, you can't. You can't.
Yeah, they get confused even in my head, even though
there's so many of them.
The jump is leaps and bounds better, no pun intended, between Super Mario and Mario Bros.
You know what's really also interesting is that he then reinvented it for Mario 64, right? And like, because that's yet a different kind of jump too, and like, but for 3D. So I don't know. I mean,
brilliant guy.
Totally brilliant.
Also a fan of Joust.
Also a fan of Joust.
Yeah. I should get out of the way here. I'm gonna leave.
I have one more answer before you go.
Please.
As far as games that inspired it, I know when we were working on the initial field game, we talked a lot about real-time strategy games like StarCraft and Warcraft and stuff like that. And not any one in particular, but we were really trying to emulate that feel that you get in a real-time strategy, but like instead of one person being the commander and sending out lots of units, we wanted you to be the units, and so that was the original goal. And like in the original versions of the field game, I think we'd often have maybe 10 people per side, or maybe more, right?
It was generally around 8 people,
numbers,
but per side.
But that idea of like you're an army working together, in tandem.
Yeah, I mean in reality, StarCraft is a huge like influence on the game.
All right, if I change the category here, we're streaming under Joust, of course, to Killer Queen, which is there. I've got platformer, strategy, RTS, indie game, arcade. I've heard it had the category of MOBA at one point.
Yeah, I mean it's similar to MOBAs in a lot of ways. Yeah.
What
just better.
What how would you classify Killer Queen?
I mean, here's the thing: is MOBAs are taking real-time strategy games and making it so instead of there being a commander, everybody is the unit, right? I mean, so that it's kind of the same. They're trying to do the same thing in slightly different ways.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the main difference is like our characters are. It's simpler, like what you can do. You don't have a lot of powers, and it's more. There's like. I guess it's more about the maneuvering than about timing, and I don't know. It's a different core mechanic is really what it comes down to.
So, as a player, as a competitive player, the timing and the stuff that makes games difficult, that might be off-putting, we'll get there as players. I say that from experience of playing Street Fighter 2 and Street Fighter 3, and Killer Queen and Joust and Pinball and everything. We'll find the edges. And we'll test them, and we'll test them against each other, and we'll be playing on that difficult level. So games that I truly enjoy, find timeless, admire, are simple. I play Street Fighter 2 still. It doesn't have a bunch of meters and different defensive things that are happening all over the place. That gets complicated, and then it becomes a big knowledge check. We're going to get there. Because I know where my hitbox ends and yours begins, but I don't need the game to rigidly put that in there. It's the simple part means that the children what we're seeing playing behind us right now can pick it up just like that and start popping off and having fun, and then we can introduce those other elements later, and the competition itself will introduce those elements. Joust has this as well. You just press the button to flap your wings and fly, and I introduce that game to people all the time, and people will still come in. I don't know how this happens. We'll have parties. They'll come in, and they'll be like, I don't really like video games. And I'm like, you're in, like, the greatest arcade I've ever seen. Why are you? Okay, it's fine. This is a game where you play with your friends, and it's simple, and it's left, and it's right, and a button. There's not 6 buttons. There's not 8 ways on the joystick. I don't have to give you any kind of convoluted thing, and then we go from there. And that simplicity, it carries over all games. It has to be fun with everybody at equal levels at the beginning level, and it's got to be simple enough that I can explain it to a child, or even not explain it, and they'll figure it out.
I mean, the way that I judge games, honestly, that I like to play is on 2 vectors. The first vector is, how long does it take me to learn how to play the game? Right? That needs to be really short. If I have to spend an hour, like, reading the rules or whatever, like, I don't have the patience for that, you know? And then the second vector is, how many times am I actually going to play this game? Like, if it's the kind of game where I'm going to, like, spend an hour reading it and then I play it once, like, no. Like, it has to have replayability and depth, and I have to be able to discover things while I'm playing the game, you know? And I feel like there's a lot of pressure to, like, add a lot of tricks up front and, like, a lot of stuff that nobody really wants or needs.
It's
but
very true.
But it's catering to, like, it because people want to make sequels, you know?
I understand.
And so, like, okay, how is it going to be different than the version before? Oh, let's add, like, 1 billion combos or whatever. It doesn't necessarily make the game better. It just makes it harder for beginners to learn it.
Right. It increases the knowledge check, so the player who is a veteran who has an advantage because they play the game and they understand the game has a bigger advantage, especially at the onset. I don't want to get into naming names of fighting games that do it poorly. Actually, I'm going to throw one under the bus. It's the old game Killer Instinct.
Oh, yeah.
That game is built around locking someone into a combo that you can technically break with a combo breaker, and you have to know exactly which combo breaker to do. And, like, once someone gets hit, it's now an endless combo, or a seemingly endless combo, that gets broken by one thing. A noob has no chance at that.
Right.
Literally no chance at all to breathe, to do anything. A noob against me has no chance at Street Fighter 2. I'm going to beat you. I'm sorry. I've won tournaments at the game. I am good at it on some level, and which I can improve to you. But Killer Instinct, you will not get a chance to play the game.
Right.
Because you'll just be watching me combo, you'll not understand how to get out of it.
In, like, exact opposition to that, you have something like Smash Brothers, right? Where, like, anybody can start playing Smash Brothers and have a good time and not know what they're doing and still have a good experience, you know? Like, yeah, they're not going to go and, like, win a Melee competition or anything, but they can, like, among themselves have a good time, explore it, because it's basically, you know, a few buttons and a joystick, you know?
And there's something about the speed of that game, Smash, and all these good games where, like, the punitive process of failing is instantaneous. So in Killer Queen, I die like that, right? And in Smash Brothers, I get knocked off the stage, and I'm dead, and that's a bummer, and then my character respawns. Or the game is over, and then we start over.
Right.
Some games fail where they lock you into this situation where you're watching the other player perform a really cool thing that they learned against you, and that's like that is a good player's, like, wet dream, but also the wrong way to go, where you just watch them perform in front of you while you're waiting to get back your chance to play again.
Right.
Yeah.
So getting back into the game, which is something that Killer Queen does really well. I spawn right into the hive. Where am I? You failed on the waterfall. May have had that conversation before.
And that's a tricky balance, right?
Street Fighter, you just hit start again.
That's
Go.
a super tricky balance. Like, how do you encourage, like, you know, depth of skill, right? And being able to show off what you know, and also, like, make a game that's simple enough that, like, you know, and that you don't get locked into this situation where I'm just watching you, like, do the most complicated thing in the world.
Yeah, even the worst scenario when I'm playing Killer Queen. By the way, I can show off some tech and, like, hit a J-dive and, like, watch me J-dive. It's cool. You died. Right. The worst thing that can happen is my team is wiped. You guys have warriors. the snail's being escorted by a fortress that I couldn't get through if I had a gun, and I don't. I just have my little Joust Warrior Queen and a bunch of Mario people, right?
Right.
And then it's over in like 20 seconds.
Or
and then
not.
We start over.
Or not. And because like when you see a team recover from being fully wiped,
And I have.
you see it, and the good teams can, right?
Right.
Because they can work together. They can they've practiced, and they can work together, and they can get back up, and then like sometimes even win, and that becomes a really magical moment. You know,
It does. But even in the advent of like I don't understand how I can get past this, it ends itself quickly, right? Mercifully.
Yeah.
We've won. Let's do the next map.